L'chaim's on the way. Welcome to another Tanya class. Well, it used to be Tanya and beer. Now we get Tanya beer scotch, Tanya beer pretzels, Tanya beer scotch pretzels, peanuts, Tanya beer pretzel scotch peanuts, and cookies. So it's expanding. We invite everyone to join us. So we're holding over here in Perek Tes, in Perek 9. And we're saying, we said that the animal soul dwells in the heart and the godly soul dwells in the brain. But there is a little bit of an emotional effect that the godly soul has on, see, I don't have my light. You're not going to see, all the color. What is it? MBC in true color, what is it, right? You guys know what I'm talking about, or you two?
I do.
Yeah.
You're old.
Which one was the you in this picture?
Wait.
Yes.
Who's old? You know about
So-
a boy named Sue.
Oh, that's culture.
That's a good point.
That's culture.
That's culture. Okay, so we said that the godly soul wants to impact the animal soul in the heart, in order that the heart, the emotions should, instead of being excited about cake and peanuts and pretzels and beer, whatever it is, should get excited about something godly. That's why it says in the Shema, you shall love Hashem with both your hearts, with all your heart. It means your good inclination and your evil inclination. And this is one of the ideas that is discussed in Chassidus and Kabbalah, that there are two levels. First is the level of iskafia, and then is the level of hisabcha. I think we introduced the concept of iskafia last week, did we not? Or 2 weeks ago. Last week.
Remember when you take a break from
Hey, sorry, it's either you or Avram Fried. I mean, it's so exactly right. So iskafia means to hold back. Iskafia starts with an aleph. To hold back, that means you're tempted to do something, but you don't, because not because you don't want it. The body wants it, but you said no. I'm not going to. It doesn't serve. It doesn't serve me good. Doesn't serve a constructive purpose. It's like cake, right? I give you an example. My wife went to an event last night for teachers. She brought back 2 pieces of cheesecake, not 1, 2. And she said, "This is for you." And I wanted the cheesecake. I wanted it. But I also want to be able to fit into my clothes. So I had this. So there was an outer struggle between the belly and the clothes, and the clothing won. Look, Black Friday's over, and I'm saying whatever. So iskafi doesn't mean you don't want it. Iskafi means you want it, but you have self-control. That's iskafi. The next level higher is that what used to be.
You get a gym membership.
Get a gym membership is easy.
Next level.
Yeah. The next level of hisabcha is when what used to be an obstacle in the service of God for you doing good, now you've turned it over. Hisabcha means lafoch, to turn over, to use it as in the service of Hashem. That's hisabcha. Now, the level of hisabcha, of turning it over, that's a very, very, very high level. We ended off last time we learned ava rava, abundant love, where you're so in love, everything the person does is cute. Like when when a person is when you're in love with somebody, those days, in the old days, right? And before you started driving you crazy, right? So everything, you see the way you snort when they laugh, isn't that so cute? Everyone's like, that's horrible, right? But when you're in love with God, everything's godly. Everything's godly. That's a very, very high level. So to see, when you have the story, for example, of the Mezritcher Magid, who it was the position of Anapoli. So someone went to the Baal Shem Tov and said he's struggling because he has all these problems in his life. And how does he deal with harsh times? So you go to my student Abzusha. No, the Magid. So the Magid told him to go. Sorry, the Magid, the Abzusha was a student of the Magid, and he said go to Abzusha, and he said and the Rebbe came, sent me to come here to ask you, how do you deal with hardships? See, you were playing with.
You mentioned your wife before. Now you got all this.
See, this is-
I'm gonna blame the Maggid on this one.
exactly. So
Alright?
Siri's listening, Alexa's listening,
No, the
your wife is listening.
Maggid's listening. You didn't get his story correct. He's getting called.
Well, the story, but I'll tell you a story in a second about that. So the Maggid sent this guy to Reb Zusha, and when he comes to Reb Zusha, he says, the Rebbe sent me here to ask you, how do I deal with hardships? So Reb Zusha said, I don't know why the Rebbe sent you here. I don't have hardships. Reb Zusha had nothing. He was very, very poor. It's a whole perspective, but that's only a very, very, very high level. And we're continuing to discuss this higher level now. This is where we pick up in the old print, bottom of page 143, by the 14th of Tevet. V'hi and Nikrais, all right, I'll do you a favor. V'hi and Nikrais, and this is what it's called, because of, it's written in Shir Hashirim, it's called Ava B'Tanugim. Ava B'Tanugim means, it's not that you're trying to close the distance between you and the object of your love. But I forgot to mention, learning tonight is L'ilui Nishmat,
Itai ben Ahuva.
Itai ben his father.
Itai ben Natan.
Itai ben Natan. His neshama should have an aliyah. You should know. You don't even have to wish him. The neshama should have an aliyah. It says that the Rebbe said that a person who dies defending other Jews is higher than somebody who sanctifies himself to give God's name. Because when a person gives up himself, it's a personal decision. But a person dies defending other Jews, so other Jews can live. It's the highest level. So his Zechariah Baruch, and he should go to God's throne and ask for peace for the land of Israel. L'chaim.
Okay.
So there's two types of love. There's the love where the object of my love it's a long distance relationship. I'm in Miami, she's in L.A. There's a separation. I want to close that gap. So you have that love is called in Hebrew the love of a burning fire. I'm here, God's up there, and there's a distance. I want to close the distance. Then there's the love of the light. You know, when you're with the object of your love, when you're with the hopefully it's your spouse, and right, and you're driving in the car, you're on a road trip somewhere. You don't have to speak. You notice that when we started going out, you felt a lot of pressure to speak, and now you could be next to your wife and you don't have to speak. I mean, she's doing all the talking about that. There was a great commercial once. I forgot which car commercial it was. It was Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head in the car.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? And he's driving and she's berating him, and all of a sudden he takes a curve and her mouthpiece falls out and goes down the hill, and Mr. Potato Head breaks into, you know.
The mouth is still yelling at the bottom of it.
I don't even remember what they were advertising, but that part I remember.
Isn't there a thing in Judaism that Hashem speaks to you through your wife?
I don't know. I didn't learn that. I skipped that part of Gemara. I was absent that day.
It's not a thing.
Not a thing.
That is not a thing, you know.
It's not a thing.
You just made that up.
The jury,
I will find it.
the jury will disregard that statement.
I have to see that. I'm not going to believe that until
I don't know.
went 3 rabbis
But
agreed.
even if you show it to us on the phone, who
not-
believes anything you see on the phone today?
It's like how you get someone to be sentenced to death. You need at least 2 or 3
Correct.
reasons. Don't give me just one rabbi.
But anyway, going back. So when you're with the object of your love, you don't have to do anything. It just the fact that you're there is enough. So a tzaddik is on such a level. And by the way, just to give you a little preview, the Alter Rebbe is first going to speak about tzaddik, what he is, and then he's going to come back down to a lower level, the Beinoni, which is the object of the book, the intermediate man, the regular man. But a tzaddik is such a person that he's constantly in the presence of God. It's called the love of the light. So he says, that's what he says. V'hina kros because of Abba Tanugim. This is called the love, the experience of the lights. Leis aneg al Hashem, to experience in godliness me'ein olam haba. That is a foretaste of the world to come. What does it mean, a foretaste of the world to come? We in our bodies, no matter how great your soul is, it's limited. Your body is a limiting container. So you can have the greatest soul, Moses, Abraham, whatever it is. Ultimately, the soul cannot fully appreciate godliness. So what happens when a soul, when a soul leaves the body? It experiences Alam Haba. It experiences godliness without the limiting containers of the body. It's ecstasy for the soul. So you might ask, so why does the soul come down here? No, why does the soul come down here?
The whole purpose. It has a
But if the whole purpose is godly revelation, and they're getting the godly revelation anyway,
yes, you're making us play at the world of home for Hashem. You're bringing it down here.
so because God doesn't want to do the work himself, he sends you down. That's
Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot more to it.
yeah. But that doesn't seem fair, because you don't want to get you.
I mean, what's fair?
What's fair?
He gives you advice.
Right. So listen, he's the boss, right?
What's fair, right?
So the answer
You
is
do a little work for him down here.
Exactly.
You know what I
After
mean?
purify his own, not Yetzirah, but wouldn't he need us to purify the shards of light encased in Kippah? Wouldn't he need us to take a role in that process?
so. First of all, God doesn't need anything; He wants.
Right, on a
Right.
metaphysical level, the
Right.
reason why we're here is because he wants us
Yeah, but
to be a part of
we're
it.
talking about the soul, right? The soul
He
is.
wants our souls to be a part of that.
But that's not fair. That's not fair to the soul.
Which
see-
is why it's a challenge for us to really come to terms with it sometimes. Maybe, I guess.
Because if I don't want to, imagine we're both sitting on the couch watching the game. I see the screen over here, right? And I don't want to get up. I said, Michael J, get me a drink. Why? Because I don't want to get up. I also don't want to get up. I'm the youngest in my family, so I want to give you some PTSD. One time the Jets were playing, right? And I was going to sit down. I was going to watch the game. I made myself an amazing sandwich. And I go, and my older brother's there. I'm not going to tell you which one.
How much were they losing back? That's-
I guess this was maybe the game. This was the first game of the season where there's still hope, right?
No, it's four snaps.
Exactly.
Aaron Rodgers needed 4 snaps.
Exactly. I walk into my older brother's there. He says to me, "Oh, that's a nice sandwich." I'm like, "Yeah, he takes it. Now go make yourself a sandwich." That's what happens when you have an older brother. I told you, it's PTSD, right? So,
Brother.
yeah,
I have an older brother.
right. I have 5. Never get a chance to eat. Look at me. Withering away. So the answer is like this. The answer is, we're going to learn about this later in Tanya, is that the experience that the soul has is limited based on what it accomplishes down here. And it experiences great things, but it's only a glow. It's not actual godliness. It is. It's godliness. It's nis. But when you do a mitzvah, that's godly, period. No nis. That's godly. You're getting in touch with God himself, not his nis. Does that make sense? I know I invented a word there, but does that make sense?
The part about the difference between wants and needs is it's
No,
like
no,
a
but
big, it's like a big difference though.
Oh, yeah, big. That's why it says in the Midrash, why did Hashem create the world? Because he wanted to have a dwelling place down here. And there's a saying in Yiddish that on a want, you can't ask questions.
So if he wants that, he needs us to do this.
He because of
He
the
doesn't
want
want
the
us to
want
be here. He
the
needs us
want
to be
created the need.
Yeah.
It's not an essential need. Like I need to eat. That's not arbitrary. I need to eat, right? That's an essential need, right? But if let's say I want beer, let's say, then I need to go to the store and buy it. So the need is not essential. The need is created from the want. Does that make sense?
I just feel like he does need us here.
He does need us
Yeah,
because
but
he
it's like-
wants us. Because he want this. God created. Let's take a step back. God could have created the world perfect. We wouldn't have to do anything.
Yeah. It's our fault.
No. He created the world purposely, with him, his energy and his presence shaded and hidden, so we have free choice. So we have. If you have no input, you have no free choice. Free choice means you have input, and free choice means you have the input could be wrong. If you're married, you have the right to the wrong opinion, right? Right. So if a man expresses his opinion, a husband expresses his opinion in a forest, and his wife is not there to hear him, is he still wrong?
Yes.
Yep.
Right? You know the old line. So meaning when you're in a relationship, by the way, This answers the question. I know this is not on the subject tonight exactly, but because you brought it up. So, if it takes us longer to finish the Tanya, it's no one's fault. I just want to let everyone know on camera. But one of the questions, the philosophical, theological questions that are asked is, why does God put up with all the garbage? Why does he even bother? All he gets is aggravation. Because
Does he get aggravated?
Of course he gets aggravated. We're in Gaulis. We're in exile, aren't we? Not?
Yeah.
What do you think? You think?
But is he aggravated? We're
Yeah.
aggravated.
No, yeah, sure.
He's
When we do,
aggravated.
sure it does. Sure it does. It says when we do mitzvahs in the Torah, it says we call him nachas.
Oh, okay.
Why? Because when you're in a relationship, automatically you open yourself to get burned.
Facts don't care about our feelings.
but that's racist. But that's what it means. God wanted a relationship. You're right. He was fine on his own, but he wanted a relationship. And whenever you want to be in a relationship, you're taking a chance that the other party is going to hurt you. But on the other hand, you're also taking the chance that they can give you a lot of fulfillment. So it's the difference between. I know we're getting into a totally different Chassidus over here. Chassidus talks about the different types of relationship. You have a family relationship and a spousal relationship. A spousal relationship is static. Your brother or sister love you, hate you no matter what, right? You can't be indifferent to your brother or your sister. It's impossible. You cannot care to your brother or your sister. So if a person has that love from their parents and their siblings, or what do they need to get married for? You already have a loving relationship, because that static relationship doesn't bring you fulfillment. It's only in the possibility for setback and hurt. You also have the possibility for great fulfillment and love. So the Jewish people have both. Anyway, so a tzaddik is a person. A tzaddik is a person that is in a state of me'eino lam haba. Also, going back to the better way, so we said before. So as much as the soul gets all this pleasure and ecstatic fulfillment from experiencing godliness, it's only a glow. It's only it's amazing, but it's, in fact, the neshamas, once they get up there, they want to come back. Once they see what a mitzvah is, they actually want to come back. It says in Kabbalah that a neshama will give up all the world to come, all the Garden of Eden, to come down to say, Amani Heshmei Rabbah just once. This is why when you walk in the cemetery, you have to tuck in your sisters. For this reason. You guys ever read the story in Gemara Brachas? I think you know the story. The guy,
He was pointing at Jerome.
you're not on camera, Jerome. In Gemara Brachas, I'm not going to say the story now, but this tells the story of these two people that are walking through the cemetery with their sisters dragging. And the guy says, "You're embarrassing the dead." And the guy says, "What? They're dead." It's a whole crazy story. Anyway, afterwards, you remind me. I'll talk to you. Let's go. Next page. And this pleasure is not a physical pleasure from eating cheesecake or reading something good. It's an intellectual pleasure. So if you go and you see a beautiful painting, or you hear Beethoven's Fifth or whatever, Rachmaninoff, and you have pleasure, it's an intellectual pleasure. But and the intellect has pleasure in the understanding and the knowledge and grasping of godliness, according to your ability to comprehend. So everybody can appreciate godliness. Everybody according to the soul level. This is the level of water, because we know water, we learn, it goes from the highest place to the lowest place. So you internalize it, and a seed. And the seed is plant and it grows. So So what's the godly soul trying to do? The godly soul is trying to lay a seed for better things, for godly comprehension into the seat of emotions. It's trying to say, yeah. So now you like chocolate cake, but let me tell you something. There's something a lot better in life than chocolate cake. Maimonides says, how do we educate kids? We have the belt, the paddle, okay, the cattle prod. No, Maimonides didn't say that. I'm kidding. So he says, we're trying to teach the kids the value of a better life, of godly actions. But what do the kids understand? Candy. They're like little monkeys and rats, right? You got to do association. So you want them to do mitzvahs. So every time they do a mitzvah, you give them candy. So they associate candy with mitzvahs. And as they grow older and they become more intellectual, they can understand. You don't have to give them candy. The problem is by then they're like candy junkies.
They're addicted to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Gotta give them some dollars.
Yeah, exactly. So my kids say, it says, every time we're in the car, my kids are like, "Can we go get Slurpees?" I'm like, no, why not? Well, yeah, but we're in the car. So what does it say that? So yeah, you have to get Slurpees every time you're with your father. It's like, I don't know, it's some biblical commandment or something. But the idea is for a person to appreciate godliness. So, but you just go to your kid and you say, chocolate cake. What do you care about chocolate cake? The Eibishter is the best thing in the world. The kid look at you like, huh? What are you talking about? Can I have my cake now? So the soul wants the body to fall in love with God. But you gotta take it slow. So it says, that's what it says. The light of the soul and the holiness of the divine soul. Because remember, we learned in chapter 1, water represents everything that's pleasurable. Everything that's pleasurable in life has water. So what the godly soul wants is to turn over the drive for pleasurable things of the animal soul. That from that element, because remember there's 4 elements: fire, which is passion and anger, and when the person loses their temper, then you have water, which is pleasure, and dirt, which is laziness, and air, which is haughtiness and boasting. So with the godly soul, it's trying to reinvent the person. And the question Eitz Chaim, like it says in the Kabbalistic book Eitz Chaim Shar Nun, the 50th portal, Perek Gimel B'Shem Azayar, Shara Nepach Lis Teiv Gomer. The bad, which was once bad, now is changed into good. Now instead of having one Yetzer Teiv, one good inclination, now he has 2, because his very body, the guy gets excited about godliness. He's totally motivated to serve God. How does he do this? He does this by removing the filthy garments. Because the reason why the body is called a filthy garment is because ultimately whatever the body wants is temporary and is garbage. Like Jerry Seinfeld has this whole shtick. Everything in the world is in a state of garbage. Jerry Seinfeld must have learned Chassidus. Right? I remember when I was in yeshiva, someone went over to the rabbi and said we should show the Matrix in yeshiva. Someone tried to convince the rabbi. The rabbi almost hit him over the head because the Matrix is really Chassidus. It shows you how everything in the world is a facade. Right?
Yep.
I mean, it takes a little bit of guts to go to the rabbi and say it, but he was half joking. But so everything the body does. Everything the body is interested in is in a state of garbage. Just nice garbage and absolute garbage. Because it's temporary. That's what temporary is. What's garbage. It was, and now it's something else. So by removing the interest in temporary matters, doesn't mean you don't do anything physical. Like Torah doesn't prescribe the idea of aesthetics, not getting married, a celibacy. That's not what we're learning here. Not it's very against what Chassidus is. I think if you remember, we learned in the first class when the Baal Shem Tov came along in the early 1700s, this concept of self mortification made its way into Jewish practice. People were hurting themselves, whipping themselves, sitting outside in the snow, and it was out of control. Baal Shem Tov says not Jewish. A person that uses his body because in general, the Chassidus and the Rebbe took this to a great, to the utmost lengths. If Hashem created it, it means it has a use for good. Everything, nuclear power, TV, internet, radio. I think the first time Tanya was taught in public, public. This book, by the way, this book, Lessons in Tanya, you see over here, on the thing, it says here, elucidated by Yosef Weinberg, and translated by Levi Weinberg, his son. So this Yosef Weinberg, he gave a lesson in Tanya in Yiddish on the radio in the 40s. And the Rebbe, by the way, this book, you should know, is translated in English, but you can buy the Hebrew or Yiddish version, and that was edited by the Rebbe. So all these notes, by the way, you see over here, these are all edited by the Rebbe. This is not some rabbi who decided to fill in the pages. But when they started teaching Tanya on the radio in 1940s, I mean, if you now we look at radio as innocent, but in the 40s radio was tummy, was shtus, was impurity and nonsense. But the Rebbe had this crazy idea: let's broadcast Torah on a channel, an avenue, what everyone thinks is bad. We'll use it for good. Some people in the Jewish community think if something is used for bad, then it's absolutely bad. Chassidus comes along and says no. If it was totally bad, it wouldn't be here. The fact that it is means we can use it. Something you have to use carefully. That's true. But and if so that's what Chassidus is. Your body is not bad. The peanuts aren't bad. The chocolate cake is not bad. There's nothing that's bad. It's all a question of how do you utilize it. So so what we're trying to do is to take off the dirty clothing, which is the pleasure that is vested with unclean garments. So the question you have to ask yourself before you partake in any activity is the feeling you're getting from it, the enjoyment, the pleasure, is that a byproduct or is that your end goal? You're giving me weird looks. Want me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Take it all l'chaim, the question will make sense. That means, to put it in more than one sentence, you have activities that your goal is not to feel good. It's a result. Right? So let's give an example. You have a Shabbos meal. Now, you walk into a Roma or something and ask them, give me your oldest, most stale piece of bread, challah, because, I want to crush my body and all that. Do you? I'm asking.
No.
Why? We're learning over here, you're not supposed to have enjoyment. It's not that you're not supposed to have enjoyment. It's that enjoyment should not be your goal. It means you want to have a Shabbos meal. Right? And you have to have challah. So you eat the challah tastes good, but it's Shabbos challah. I mean, the goal is the Shabbos, right? So that's what we're saying. So the evil inclination tells you, act because it feels good to you. Do whatever makes you feel good, which we were talking about in the previous class. That's how we get into trouble in the first place. When you only think about yourself and what makes you feel good, then you overlook other people, you step on people, and you don't act responsible. So but the Yetzer Hara, Yetzer Hara only thinks about the now. Yetzer Hara is a baby. Yetzer Hara is a baby. Only thinks about the now. Doesn't think about what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
So the challah is for Shabbos, and we can eat it, and it's amazing, right? We make it godly, or we bring godliness into that, right?
The reason why it's so godly is because we're having physical enjoyment for a godly reason. Yeah. That's the absolute of.
But if you eat half of it by yourself, half of the challah. Wait, so this is what you were talking about? Like, what is the limit of the enjoyment when it is something godly? You hear what I'm saying? I think go off on top of other people, right, for.
So if you want to know what the limit is, so at one point we had a buffet here, and we stopped it because people were acting too godly. They were such in a rush to be godly. They were forgetting their physical limits. That's why by Kiddush and Shabbos we have the table, right? I'm even Yavin. No, but again, it has to do with your approach. Everyone, you know yourself. You have to know what your motivation is. I remember when I was in 9th grade, my teacher was a little bit of an old timer. He probably wasn't so old. The way he spoke was an old timer, and we played tackle football every single day, and basketball. So we ate like maniacs. We played seriously tackle football, basketball every day. So he comes in one day and he says, I came into the lunchroom and I saw boys and I took one slice of bread, 2, 3, 4 slices of bread. We're looking at him like, this guy's off his rocker. He lost a class for the rest of the year. Like, this guy is totally unrelatable. 4 slices of bread. I eat 4 slices of bread on the way to thinking, what should I eat with another 4 slices of bread? I could knock it on a loaf of bread. When I was 14, 15, 16, I can eat 2 sandwiches before I even started thinking about another 2 sandwiches. I can a pie of pizza. We didn't do it for exercise, but we ran around like Mishagayim. Every second was sports. So we weren't eating the bread to be animals. To him, we saw, oh my God, these yeshiva boys, they're supposed to be thinking about self-control. They're having 4 slices of bread. 4 slices. The guy's he's an alien. It's not a question of what you do so much as how you do it. Yeah, and we're talking about kosher bread, and obviously it's Shabbat and everything else. We're not talking about eating. No, that's what the challenging thing is. Alter Rebbe over here is not talking about you shouldn't sin. Obviously, you can't sin. That for sure. We're talking about even the things you're allowed to do. How do you go about it? It's a lot more challenging, because many times what we do is we fool ourselves. I'm entitled. It's not such a big deal. Oh, it's kosher. It's a lot harder. The evil inclination can see when something's wrong, it's wrong. Right? I mean, so the Yetzer Hara can sometimes dim our, they call our moral compass. Is that, I guess, the right? Yeah. But in the end of the day, it's wrong. It's wrong. But you go.
So, Neo is the Mashiach, and Mr. Smith is the Yetzer Hara.
Neo? Oh,
Matrix.
sorry.
You brought it up.
Neo is the Mashiach.
Maybe it's a few.
But Ben Yosef, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
At first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How many Matrix? 4 or 5? How many?
Just the one.
Just
the one.
Just the one.
Just,
The Matrix.
yeah.
Like, don't like that.
Right. So this is what it's about. So now it's not only for the drive after pleasurable things. It's also all your character. A person is supposed to be in absolute control of himself at all times, and control of all his emotional faculties.
Show me this man.
Yeah.
They exist. They're very hard.
Show me this
So
man.
I'll tell you a story because you asked. In the War of 1812 between Russia, well, it's not called the War of 1812. The war between the Russians.
I wasn't with. Not
Right.
the,
No,
Russia was
no.
not in the War of 1812.
Right, the war between Russia and France, which France lost in 1812 because of 1812. I don't know how long it lasted.
This is the winter.
Because of the winter, yeah. So the Alter Rebbe was a little bit ahead of his times. So a lot of the people in the Jewish community felt that Napoleon would be better for the Jews because he represented democracy. The Alter Rebbe understood that it was the wrong type of democracy. It wasn't democracy the Rebbe would always say, it says in the Constitution, freedom of religion, not freedom from religion. Napoleon represented just throwing off all moral standards. So the Alter Rebbe was one of the only rabbis at the time who said it was better for the Jews to be under the Tsar, and the Tsar was not nice to the Jews, than to be under Napoleon. So in order to facilitate a victory of the Tsar, the Alter Rebbe had a student. His name was Moshe Meisels, who was multilingual, which for a Jew, a religious Jew in 1812 was very, very rare.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. Most
The
Jews didn't speak.
Meturgamim of the last 3,000 years were all Jewish in Europe. The
In
translators
Russia,
of all empires were always Jewish. The last
telling
name
you,
Turgeman.
most. First of all, Turgeman is not Russian. First of all,
No,
I'll
the
tell you,
word the last name Turgeman comes
I
from the Jews that were Meturgamen.
I
They were the translators
understand,
for
but I'm
royalty.
telling you, the Jews that lived in Russia and Poland hardly spoke Russian and Polish. The most Jews do not speak.
Oh, you're talking about shtetl life for a very microcosm part of
It
Europe.
wasn't okay.
Okay.
I'm telling you, but this was in Russia.
Okay.
Even in Russia and Poland, by the way, the Gentiles had to learn Yiddish. The pictures, the marketplaces, the signs were in Yiddish. The Jews did not speak Russian and Polish. If they did, it was very broken. Talking about the real religious ones. Moshe Meisel spoke Russian, Polish, French. He spoke a bunch of languages. So he sent him to be a spy. And he got into Napoleon's camp. Now, after a while, Napoleon got wind that there was a spy. There was a leak. So one day, he walked into the tent where all the assistants were walking. Everyone stood up because of the emperor. And he went around and he put his hand on each one's chest. Outside, in the exterior, you can show that you're calm, but inside, your heart's beating. He came to Moshe Meisel's, he put his hand on his chest, and he walked away. So afterwards, when the other Chassidim asked him, he said, "So what did you do to deserve the miracle?" He said, "It wasn't a miracle." So what do you mean it wasn't a miracle? You weren't nervous? He says, "I was nervous." He said, "How come your heart didn't beat?" He says, "Because the Alter Rebbe teaches us in Tanya that a person has to be in control of his faculties at all time." So my mind told my heart, now is not the time to get nervous. So these people do exist. It's hard. Remember, we said in the beginning of Tanya, it's the long, short way. It's not an easy accomplishment.
It reminds me of the saying my grandmother always used to tell me before she came to
Stop touching the cookies.
No, she said about the czar. She said, "We know what we have with the czar. God only knows what we'll get if he dies."
Right. But I think with Israel, right? One thing, how come Israel doesn't kill all the the anti-Semites and the Gaza or the West Bank? Because with this Meshuggah we know, right? The next Meshuggah.
No, it's because we can.
All right.
Because we're not superheroes, and it turns out that our intelligence is not
What
as.
There's nothing Israelis can do.
See, there's nothing Hashem can't do. When you attribute that to the people, that's when you start getting the wrong ideas.
Huh?
You making coffee right now?
No, it's boiling. It's boiling hot water. So let's finish off chapter 9 for tonight. It says v'chein.
Does it for you.
There's no creamer in it.
V'chein. So tomorrow, next week, you can bring power of creamer.
You can
Or
already bring it on.
I'll just bring my coffee.
V'chein shar kol amida shebalev. And similarly, the divine soul wants to control all the other characters of the heart. Shehin anfeya yira v'ava, which all emotions stem from fear and love. Yil Hashem lavali should be for God Himself. V'chol koyach hadibur shebepeh, and not only the emotions, anything you say, v'amachshava shebemayich, and anything you think about. Miluim should be filled in levushay ha'machshava v'dibur shel nefesh shel lavada. We said last time we learned, the person is a city. And the good inclination and the evil inclination are kings. And rulership, authority is absolute. If you don't have absolute authority, you're not the king. So it wants the body and its expressions of it to be totally in its service. In thought, it should be only the thoughts of Torah. To speak about Torah the whole day. Like we learned about Rabbah. Remember that Rabbah, we quoted this line in chapter 1. When Rabbah said, "I am an intermediate man," and Abaya said, "You're calling yourself an intermediate man, you don't stop learning Torah." You remember, we learned that even the angel of death couldn't kill Rabbah because he didn't stop learning Torah. But that's what the godly soul wants, has lofty goals. V'koyach hamasa 146 in the old print. V'koyach hamasa shev yodav, and its faculty of action should be v'shar ramachi vodav in all of 248 limbs. Yeh b'maisa mitzvahs levad should only be for mitzvahs. Shehu which is the third garment of the godly soul. That's what the godly soul wants. That's what the divine soul wants. But remember, we started off chapter 7 saying that everything's in a balance. So as much as the godly soul wants to have absolute control of only Torah and mitzvot for thought, speech, and action, but the animal soul, which is derived from klippa, a covering of godliness, and because the godliness is covered, it only sees itself. What does it want? Wants the exact opposite. So at the same time, the guy wants to get up and go to shul, but he wants to stay in bed. He wants chocolate cake, and he wants to learn Torah. So we said in the beginning, every person suffers from multiple personality disorder. You're not crazy. You have two different consciousness living trapped inside of you. And they're pulling in opposite directions. They can't be more different than each other. And in God's cruel sense of irony, they need each other. Because a godly soul can't do a mitzvah without the animal soul. an animal soul left to its own, self-destruct. But like a horse with the apples, right? A horse doesn't stop.
So that's why it's important to have one educator, right? Or one path that you follow.
Right. Even
Not to.
we spoke. I think we spoke about this on
We spoke
Shabbos.
about it last week because of Shlomo Melech.
Right. Right. Exactly. And also we spoke about it on Shabbos. Shlomo Melech with the Haftarah. So, you can't choose. And we also have it with the Haftarah. We said on Shabbos with Eliyahu Navi. He gives them an option: either serve idols or serve God. Because
you have to choose.
You got to choose. You can't be one or the other. So this is one of the messages the Alter Rebbe is giving us in Tanya is you have to be clear with yourself to categorize your action. It's one thing to be indulgent and give in to the drives of the animal soul. At least know where it's coming from. Don't fool yourself and think that my godly soul told me to stuff my face with 5 slices of pizza. So now I'm a holy Jew. You got to know where it's coming from. So it says, but the animal soul, just to finish off, Taivas Adam, he desires for the man's benefit, but temporary benefit. She's Gabra Lavi Yitzchah, he wanted that he should prevail and vanquish it. Kamashal Azayna Shebezer Kodesh. Now, the Alter Rebbe throws in an example over here. It's a very, very interesting example. And he's answering a question. Who created the animal soul? God.
Yeah, sure.
So how could the animal soul go against God's will? What does that mean? We don't believe in anything. We don't believe in Satan. We don't believe in the devil. We don't believe in independent fallen angel. Whatever those guys, I don't know if anyone's watching.
Come
I'm
on,
offending you.
Get on the point. Because I heard a line in there that I'm dying.
Yeah. What's the point?
So the Zohar gives an example.
Zera.
No, Zona.
Zona? So you said Zona and then you changed the N to an R. Both of them make me wonder. Zona? Zona?
Yeah. Shebezohar Kodesh. Listen, 1 second. Don't worry. So it says, so a king wanted to Zohar gives a classic example, which is the king wanted to test his son's character and fortitude. But in the confines of the palace, where everything is pure and holy and great, and he's not subject to any temptation, you have no idea what it's going to be. So what does he do? He hires a woman of ill repute to try to seduce his son. Now, he obviously doesn't want his son to fall for this woman. Not only does he not want, she doesn't want. But her job is to tempt. She has to do her job to the best of her ability, which is to tempt the prince. So she has to be as promiscuous and illicit as possible, but only because she's been commanded as such from the king. But even she doesn't want the prince to go against his father's will. So the king obviously is God. The prince is a Jew, and the illicit woman, the mortal woman, is the evil inclination. God doesn't give the evil inclination power, dominion. His job is to give a human being, a person, the opportunity either to choose good or to choose bad. But if bad didn't look tempting, then it wouldn't be a choice. It's only when bad looks equally is balanced with good, that's when the real choice is made. And we'll end off with a story. You're probably going to hear the story again anyway, but it's good story to end off.
Like all of his stories.
Exactly. Listen, you want me to be like those rabbis who invent stories?
That was Melvin.
That was Melvin, Jerome. I said our class is overflowing with attendees today. But where's Asaf? Asaf didn't make it. So Rabbi Levi Yitzchak Barditchev every year by Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur time would find another reason why the Jewish people merit a good year. So one year he said, God, you're a big trickster, he says to God. You put the Garden of Eden in the books, and you put all the pleasures of sin outside. Why don't you do it the other way? Why don't you put the Garden of Eden outside, put all the pleasures of sin in the books, and you'll see. It's not a fear game. So, but this is what it is. Even the Nefesh Bahamas, even your animal soul wants you to do mitzvahs. The entire world is focused for you to make the right decision. We should hear good news from the land of Israel, and again, the neshama of Itai ben Natan should have an aliyah.
Amen.
Have a good week. Conclusion, chapter 9.
There's a